In 498 BC, the Greek cities on the Asian coast are in revolt against the Persian Empire. The rebelling Ionian Greeks successfully destroyed the Persian regional capital at Sardis, but the Persians are already planning to avenge this act. The Persian armies from the neighboring provinces arrive at the burned-out city. The three generals leading them are all son-in-laws of the Persian king Darius the Great. The Persians chase the Greeks who had destroyed Sardis back to their ships at Ephesus and defeat them. The Persian general Darius then heads for the Hellespontos to recapture the towns that recently joined the revolt there. 5 of the 6 city-states of the southern Hellespontos are quickly retaken, 1 per day. But the 6th one, Parion, escapes punishment, because on his way there Darius receives news that the Carians in the south revolted, so he turns around. Darius then takes a long march from the northern coast down to Caria in the south. The Carian nations learn about the advancing Persian army and start preparing for their defense. An invasion of Caria would have to pass along the Marsyas River, which flows from the region of Idrias into the Meandros River. The Carians gather at a place called Leukai Stellae, or White Pillars, before marching out to meet the Persian army. Pixadaras of Kindia proposes the following battle plan. He wants the Carians to cross the Meandros River and fight with the river at their backs to dissuade themselves from fleeing. But the opposite battle plan is adopted, and the Persians are allowed to cross the river, so that they would all perish in the water if they lose the battle and flee. In the ensuing battle, the Carians hold out for a long time against the numerical advantage of the Persians, but in the end they are routed and suffer more than 10,000 casualties compared to only 2,000 by the Persians. The Persians chase the surviving Carians to the shrine at Labraunda, where the Carians debate whether to surrender or find a new homeland outside Asia. The Ionians at Miletus send over their army to save the Carians, which temporarily raises their morale. But the Persians defeat the combined army of the Carians and Miletus too, and both of them suffer catastrophic losses. The Persians then head for Padasa and the other neighboring big cities of the Carians, to finish off their uprising. But the Carians set an ambush on the road leading to Padasa and annihilate the Persians in a surprise attack at night. The Persian general Darius dies, along with the rest of the Persian leadership and most of the Persian army. The Carian ambush was led by Heraclides of Mylasa. The annihilation of Darius's army saved the Carians and stopped the main advance of the Persian army for a while. Meanwhile, the other Persian general, Histiaeus, heads north to the Propontis to retake the Greek cities there. He successfully recaptures the Greek city of Chios from the Ionians. When he learns that Darius moved south and left the reconquest of the Hellespontos unfinished, Histiaeus marches there to finish the job. He arrives in the region of Ilion, a Greek city at the site of ancient Troy and its surrounding area, the Traus, which is now inhabited by Ionian Greeks. The descendants of the Trojans live on as the Gergites in the nearby mountains. Histiaeus manages to reconquer both nations, but he falls sick during the campaign and dies. The third Persian general on site, and the only one still alive, is Autonus. Together with Artapernes, the Persian governor of Sardis, they are appointed to lead an army into the core territories of the revolt. The targets of the campaign are the cities of Kyme and Clazomena. They capture Kyme, the main Ionian city on the mainland, and the Ionians' closest ally. The city of Clazomena is also captured, one of the 12 cities of the Ionian coalition that leads the revolt. The loss of Kyme and Clazomena is a serious blow to the uprising, but after their capture, the Persian advance is exhausted. The first Persian offensive managed to recapture a large portion of the mainland territories of the revolt. But the remaining Greek states are going to remain free for several more years. Aristagoras, the leader of the revolt and the man who is responsible for starting it, is so discouraged by these territorial losses that he is planning to flee from Miletus. He is advised to fortify the island of Leros, where a government in exile of Miletus could survive and plan their return if the city itself is taken by the Persians. But Aristagoras has different plans. He even considers fleeing to the faraway island of Sardo, today called Sardinia, where the Persians couldn't reach him. But in the end, he rejects both of these ideas and decides to sail to Thrace instead, abandoning the revolt he started. On the Thracian coast, he settles at Myrkinos, a fortress built by the city of Miletus more than a decade earlier, as a bridgehead for the colonization of the surrounding area. But soon after arriving, Aristagoras falls in a battle fighting the neighboring Thracians. Meanwhile, the previous ruler of Miletus, who preceded Aristagoras, is in trouble at the Persian royal court. Histiaeus is interrogated about why his chosen successor rebelled. Unknown to the great king, Histiaeus had sent a secret message to Aristagoras in Miletus that triggered the revolt. To convince the king to release him, Histiaeus promises that he will deliver the king what was thought to be the largest island of the known world at the time, Sardo. The unsuspecting Persian king releases him. So Histiaeus is dispatched to go to Ionia, to put an end to the revolt, and to bring its leadership to justice. Histiaeus reaches the Persian provincial capital at Sardis. But here, the Persian governor, Artapernes, suspects that Histiaeus had a role in starting the revolt. Fearing that his treachery has been discovered, Histiaeus flees to the Ionian city of Chios, but he is not welcome there either. He sends a messenger back to Sardis, trying to incite a revolt there that he arranged with some Persians, but his conspiracy is discovered. So he tries to restore himself to power in his hometown of Miletus, but his own citizens reject him too. Then he goes back to Chios and tries to convince them to give him a fleet, but fails. So he moves on to Mytilene in Lesbos, where he manages to acquire 8 ships. With his new fleet he sails to Byzantium, where he starts capturing all the civilian ships sailing out of the Black Sea, to increase the size of his fleet. To explain why he urged the Ionians to revolt, Histiaeus makes up a lie that the Persian king wanted to relocate the Ionian Greeks to Phoenicia, and the Phoenicians to Greece. But the Persian king now orders Phoenicia, along with Egypt, Cilicia, and the recently recaptured Cyprus, to prepare a fleet to crush the Ionian revolt. The combined Persian fleet sails from Asia to Miletus in Ionia, targeting the leading city of the uprising. The remaining Ionian cities debate how to handle the coming invasion. They gather at Panionion, the traditional meeting place of the Ionian alliance, and they agree to combine their navies to defend Miletus. 8 Ionian city-states and the Ionian island of Lesbos participate in the upcoming sea battle. The combined Greek fleet is made up of 353 vessels, with Miletus itself and the 3 island nations providing most of it. The size of this fleet is formidable enough to scare the invading Persians. The town of Pachaia only provides 3 ships. The city was once a great power, but most of its citizens emigrated when the Persians took control of their city 50 years ago. Dionysios, the general of Pachaia, is elected to lead the combined Ionian fleet, but his strict training program creates resentment among the men. In Samos, the military leadership is dissatisfied with the training of the soldiers, and they consider the fight unwinnable. So they accept a proposal from Iacchus, their exiled tyrant, to restore him to power and rejoin the Persian Empire. The other Ionian cities receive similar secret offers to defect from the alliance in exchange for escaping punishment, but only Samos accepts. The island of Lade, next to the city of Miletus, becomes the naval base of the Ionian fleet, where the ships are anchored. During the battle, the 353 ships are laid out in a single line from west to east. Samos is assigned to the left flank. It's not known yet that they have betrayed the rest of the Greeks. The right flank is given to the local fleet of Miletus. But as soon as the battle begins, the Samos contingent leaves, in accordance with the secret deal they made with the Persians. The fleet from Lesbos, realizing that their left flank is exposed without the ships from Samos, panics and they too flee the battle. But the 100 ships from Chios stay and fight to the end, but the result of their bravery is only that they suffer the heaviest losses of all the Ionians, and most of their fleet is destroyed. The rest of the Greek fleet either flees or gets destroyed too. After the betrayal by Samos, the Greeks had little chance against the numerical advantage of the Persians. The defeat at the Battle of Lade seals the fate of the Ionian Revolt. The Samos fleet sails back to their home island unscathed. The few surviving ships from Chios have to land at the nearby Mycale mountain, because their ships are too damaged to sail all the way home. From there, they have to continue on foot to get back to their home country. But when they reach Ephesus, the survivors from Chios are mistaken for an army of bandits and killed. Ephesus already exited the revolt earlier, so it didn't know that the intruders were fellow Ionians fleeing from a battle. So the island of Chios comes out the worst from the battle. They provided the most ships, yet suffered the greatest casualties, then the survivors were accidentally killed. Compared to them, the neighboring Erythrae only provided 8 ships for the battle, while the city of Teos next to them provided 17 ships. After the sea battle, a naval blockade of Miletus is put in place, and the land army arrives to start a siege of the city. When Miletus is finally captured after 6 years of independence, its citizens are enslaved and the city is destroyed. The rich sanctuary of Miletus at Didyma is also plundered and burned. After the fall of Miletus, the Persians recapture the remaining Carian cities. Meanwhile, Histiaeus, the ex-tyrant of Miletus, is still capturing ships at Byzantium. When he learns that his hometown fell, he sails back to the island of Chios in Ionia. But at Chios, he is stopped by the guards at Koila, where he has to defeat them in battle. Histiaeus then sets up a base at a place called Polychna on the island. From here, he can dominate the rest of Chios, since the city lost most of its ships and fighting men in the Battle of Lade. Histiaeus then goes on to besiege the famously rich city of Thasos. But when he learns that the Persian fleet is heading north from Miletus, he lifts the siege and leaves for Lesbos. From Lesbos he crosses over to the mainland to the regions of Atarnos and the Caicos River, to feed his army with the crops growing there. But a Persian army happens to be nearby when they land at Malina, and the Greeks are defeated in a battle, and Histiaeus is captured. Histiaeus is taken to Sardis, where he is beheaded by the Persian governor Artaxerxes, against the wishes of the Persian king. Meanwhile, the Persian fleet sets off from Miletus to capture the islands of Chios, Lesbos, and Tenedos. The mainland Ionian states are also recaptured. The cities and their sanctuaries are burned and their populations enslaved. The city of Kyzikos negotiates its surrender with Oibares, the Persian governor of nearby Doskalaion, so the city escapes punishment. Byzantium and Chalcedon evacuate their cities before the Persian fleet arrives and settle at Mesembria. The Persian fleet then goes through all the remaining Greek cities of the Hellespontos and the Propontis one by one, and recaptures and burns down each of them. The Hellespontos is the last region of the revolt recovered by the Persians. On the Thracian peninsula, Miltiades prepares to evacuate when he learns that the Persian fleet is already at Tenedos. He sets off from Cardia with 5 ships and sails through the Melos Gulf. But the Persians catch up with him just as he is about to escape the peninsula and capture one of his ships and his eldest son. But Miltiades himself escapes to Imbros with his other 4 ships. From Imbros, he returns to his hometown of Athens, where Miletus is going to become a general leading the Athenians in the Battle of Marathon. The Ionian Revolt ends with all of its territory recaptured by the Persian Empire. After the war, the people of Clazamenai relocate their city to the nearby island so that they can better withstand a siege in the future. The Persians resettle Carians from Padasa into the mountain regions of Miletus, depriving the city-state of its eastern border. While the enslaved citizens of Miletus are deported from Greece and taken away to the heartlands of the Persian Empire, where they are resettled near the Persian capital Susa, at the mouth of the Tigris River. Dionysios, the general who led the Battle of Lade, sails with 3 captured ships to Phoenicia immediately after the lost battle. He becomes a pirate there, instead of returning home. Later, he moves his base of operations to Sicily, where he continues working as a pirate, preying on Carthaginian and Etruscan ships, but never on Greek ones. At Samos, many people are dissatisfied with the return of Persian control under the tyranny of Iacchus. The dissidents from Samos, along with some of the other subjugated Ionians, received an invitation from Sicily to settle there. So they set off to emigrate to the Italian Greek areas. It was the city of Zonkle, ruled by King Histiaeus, that sent this invitation to the Ionians. They want the Ionians to settle at Kala Akte, a place controlled by the native Sicilians, to expand the area of Greek influence there. The city of Rhegion, ruled by the tyrant Anaxilos, is the main rival of Zonkle, across the strait that separates them. Anaxilos sends a messenger to Lochroi, where the exiles from Samos stopped on their way to Sicily, and he urges them to take over Zonkle itself, instead of colonizing Kala Akte. Meanwhile, the king of Zonkle is campaigning against the native Sicilians and left his city undefended. The Samos exiles take the advice and capture Zonkle, the city that invited them to Sicily. The king of Zonkle and his army rush back to their city, but they are too late. Histiaeus requests help from his superior, the tyrant of Gela called Hippocrates, who rules over a large stretch of eastern Sicily. Hippocrates heads to Zonkle at the head of an army to relieve the city. But at Zonkle, he blames Histiaeus for losing the city and imprisons him. He makes a deal with the Samos exiles, then enslaves the original inhabitants of the city and plunders its territory. In exchange for this, the exiles from Samos can keep the city and form their new state there. Histiaeus, the deposed king of Zonkle, is taken to the city of Inachos and imprisoned there. But he escapes to the city of Himera, and from there, he sails away to Asia and joins the Persian king's court. Greek cities as far as Skidros and Laos in Italy are mourning the fall of the Ionians after the revolt. In these 2 towns live the exiled citizens of Sybaris, a close ally of Miletus, who were expelled from their home city by Croton. The Ionian Revolt ends, but the Persian invasions of mainland Greece are just about to begin.